diamond
avoid
problem.
ambiguity.
Right, to avoid ambiguity, and somebody also said typical diamond problem, for example. So I might have a situation like this where consider this. Let's say I have a class person. Class person is having properties like name and age with validations that age should be greater than or equal to 0, right? When a person is born, his age is 0. Class called employee, for example, which inherits from person, and in which I have put in a validation here which says that age should be greater than or equal to 18. And then class student, wherein age now should be greater than or equal to 2. Now, both of these are inheriting from person. And then you have a class called trainee employee, which inherits from employee and student. So now the trainee employee would be somebody who, when he joins an organization, is undergoing a training. So at that time, he's an employee or also as well as a student. Now, the name is okay. I mean, you're just having one copy of name coming in here, right? You're actually getting two copies of name, but there's only one copy of the code. The code is the same for name. The problem is about age. The trainee employee now is getting two copies of age out here, one from employee and one from student. So what should be the validation for age for a trainee employee? Should it be 18 or should it be 2? So this could cause an ambiguity in your code. You're not sure about what copy to retain. So this is a typical problem. Another problem that I can present to you is this. Let's say in a visual mechanism. Let's say you had a class called window, right? Now window has a certain height and width, maybe a certain background color. You get two classes, window 1 which inherits from window 2 also which inherits from window. Now this has a different height and width and also has a different back color. Window 2 also inherits from window, has a different height and width and has a different back color. So if I take up window 3, now which has to inherit from window 1 and window 2, what should be the height of the window? Window 1 side or window 2 side? Or what should be the width of the window? Which of these widths it should retain? What should be the background color of the window? So too many ambiguities out here, no definite way of resolving them. So these are some of the issues that you face with multiple inheritance. Correct? Now, what is the problem? What is the major problem with multiple inheritance? What are what is causing the problem? What is the issue that you have here? Two copies of code, two or more copies of code. So when you get multiple copies of code, the compiler may not know what to do. So what if I present you with a different situation? For example, what if I showed you this, something like this? So I have a class here called employee, and I have an abstract class called DB functions, which has only abstract methods. Only abstract methods. And if I now inherit from employee and DB functions, would this be okay? Would this situation be okay?
Yes, sir.
Right? Why would it be okay?
So because the definition of those functions will be in the derived class.
Correct. So there's no original code to begin with. There's no original code that we have here. First thing is, of course, no names are clashing, but more than that, there's no original code out here. Whatever code is there will have to be written in this class. What if the employee class had a method called insert? What if there was a method here called insert and which did have some code? So would now it cause a problem?
Yes, sir. It would create an ambiguity. Yeah.
What will be the ambiguity?
It won't be able to understand which insert to inherit, whether
But how
from the
many copies of code are you getting? How many copies of code are you getting?
One
the
copy.
two copies.
Look carefully. The second one doesn't have any code in it.
Uh,
Does the second one have any code in it?
no, sir.
It only has a signature. Correct?
Yes,
So how many copies of code are you getting? Again, I'm repeating the same question.
one copy.
So is there a problem? Would there be a problem then if you get one copy of code?
Sir, there might be a problem because considering the case of abstract, so it should be defined in, so it is already a pre-written code. So in that case, it might
So,
create one
so,
problem.
so we are getting a copy of that code. Abstract class, if you're implementing, then you're getting that code, you're getting the function from your base class, from the employee class,
Yes,
and then
yes,
it's giving you the implementation code. So this
that
should
can
work
be,
fine. This should
that
work
can,
fine, right?
mm, that can
Sir,
What
be
is the
then
done through,
abstract?
how can
yes.
we again define that method in the class manager if we are extending it?
Which
In
one? You can
employee,
always you can always override a method, right? You can have a virtual method. You can override it if you don't like the implementation code. We've just seen how you can override it. You can hide it. You can override it. All those options are available to you. So is there a issue now? Even if you have a method called insert in employee, is there a problem here in this situation? And the answer is no, because even if you get common methods, you're getting in from one class, you're not getting in code. You're only getting in what? You're only getting in the signatures. Code is coming from one class only. So if you have a situation like this, wherein you had to inherit from an abstract class with all abstract methods, then it should not cause you a problem even with multiple inheritance. Do you agree?
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. But now the compiler cannot keep doing, keeping a check out here, because the abstract class says what? That you can also have non-abstract methods. So right now, while inheriting, what if, it worked fine, but later at some point later that class went and added a non-abstract method. So then again, your code would stop working. So there are too many problems in trying to bring in this, because the abstract class doesn't restrict it to say that it can only have what? Abstract method. It can have non-abstract methods as well. So instead of an abstract class, in this particular situation, what you can create is an interface. An interface is like an abstract class with all abstract methods. And in an interface also, okay, you would be having only the method signatures. That's the statement that I'm making right now. That initially I'm saying that you can only have method signatures in the interface. And naming convention, typically it will begin with the letter I. And the interface was introduced. See, the interface was not there originally in C++. So the interface was introduced later in other languages to deal with this issue. When you're saying now that it's okay to get in method signatures wherein there is no code written down. Okay, method with code is still causing a problem, but method signatures should not cause a problem. So that is the reason why interfaces were introduced. And in these modern programming languages, you've already done interfaces before. You can inherit from a single class, but implement more than one interface. All right. So this is the, sort of a roundabout way of how to, implement more than one abstract class without any uh, code in there. You can do it through an interface. You can't do it through a class. You can't inherit from two classes. So you can inherit from one class and implement an interface out. Okay. Now my first question to you is, you all have already done interfaces, so it's not that this is a new topic to you. Are interfaces a substitute for multiple inheritance?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yeah. Anyone who has a different opinion or wants to state their opinion? Interfaces, are they a substitute for multiple inheritance? Yes, no. Yes, everybody says yes.
So,
Yes,
but
sir.
in multiple inheritance, we can also have non-abstract method, right? In interface, that
Yes.
is a
No,
limitation.
my question is this. I'm reasons are yours. My question was this: are interfaces a substitute for multiple inheritance? That was my question. I'm not asking to give one answer or the other. I'm just listening to what your opinion is.
Yes,
So I
sir.
heard two, three people saying yes, yes, this is it. So instead of, the language doesn't support multiple inheritance, but it supports interfaces. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So that that is like a statement saying that, okay, we don't have multiple inheritance, no problem. Here's a substitute. Interfaces. Correct? Agree with this or disagree with this? Everybody agrees it's a substitute for multiple
Uh,
inheritance.
so substitute we can say, but it is not a part of hierarchy. So we can contradict the statement.
Okay. All right. So let me make a few statements on this. We started with the inheritance example yesterday. When I started with inheritance, I asked you, why have inheritance? Why? What is your answer?
Code reusability.
Reusability.
Code reusability. Sorry, I couldn't hear you correctly. Was that code reusability that you said?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I'm not, the connection is a little weak. Can you please repeat what you're saying? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Code
Code reusability.
reusability.
Code, CODE code. Code, you're saying the word code reusability.
No, sir. No, sir.
No, that's what I thought I heard you say. Code reusability is what is available in inheritance. Correct? Okay. Where is the code? Where is the code? Do you have any code in the interface? Yes. What is the interface going to have? It's like an abstract class with all abstract method. It's going to only have what? Signatures. So where is the code? Do we have any code in there? Yes, no, no, no. So are they a substitute for multiple inheritance?
No, sir.
No. You cannot do with interfaces what you are doing with multiple inheritance. If you could do the same thing, then they were a substitute. Agree? What is a substitute? Substitute means instead of doing this, you're doing this. So, no, I don't agree with that they're a substitute for that. Are they very important in their own right? Yes, they are. Interfaces are very, very important. When you write code in most modern day programming languages, the use of interfaces is mandatory and is required and is going to be used frequently. So Yeah, I mean, interfaces, I don't think are a substitute for multiple inheritance, because multiple inheritance give you code reusability and you don't have that in the interfaces. What are you only getting? Signatures.
Signatures.
Agree?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, no, I don't blame you for your response, because you have been sort of programmed to say that this language does not support multiple inheritance, but it supports interfaces. I have a problem with that, but. It is okay if you say this language does not support multiple inheritance. Full stop. End of the story. And then later say what? Not but later say this language supports interfaces. But they're not. But is the problem. The but is the one that implies that it is a substitute. So it's not. I'll give you a cricket example. Okay, I mean, a lot of y'all would be following cricket. So we had Aussies are coming here. Hopefully, we'll beat them again for the World Test Championship. But one very important member is missing now. Rishabh is not there, right? And we know what happened in Australia. So in Australia, what happened? We went there and we could beat them with half the team missing. And there were two main people the batsmen who allowed us to do that. Who were the two main batsmen? One was Rishabh. Who was the other?
Pujara.
Pujara, right? So what would Pujara do? Pujara would just keep blocking, 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 blocking. 40, 50 overs, he would keep blocking. Kookaburra would get soft, would lose his seam. Their bowlers would get tired and frustrated with this guy Pujara. And then Rishabh Pant would come and then knock it all over. Right? Lyon this side, Cummins this side, Hazelwood this side, Stark here. So he'll do all of that. Now, was Pujara important?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Was Pant important?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Could Pant do what Pujara did?
No.
He would have gone mad if you asked him to just block, 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 block. He would have gone mad. Could Pujara have done what Pant did?
No.
No way. So that's your interfaces and your inheritance. Inheritance has its own importance. Interfaces have their own importance. But they are not, interface is not a substitute for multiple inheritance. Right? Very important in their own right, but not really a substitute of. So that's the point I'm making. That's precisely the point I'm making out here. Are we clear on this, everybody? All right. Let's go back to our code and see how we could work with interfaces. So I'll add a new project to this. Console app and interfaces is what I'm calling it. All right. So first thing is, while creating an interface, you would create it, with the keyword interface rather than class. So public interface and then the name of the interface. Typically, interfaces begin with the letter I, and I'm going to create an interface called IDB functions, which consists of functions that you would normally work with when you're working with the database. So let's say, for example, void insert, void update, and void delete. I might have it out here. Right. So these are the functions that I would work with when I'm normally interacting with the database. While creating an interface, we don't specify any code body in there. So you have void insert, semicolon. We don't have an access specifier because by default, all members of an interface are public. So it's implicitly public. You can't give it an access specifier. And, again, no code body. So this is like a abstract method that you have written down, which means that the class that is implementing the interface is forced to write down the methods for the interface. So let's try creating a class which implements that interface. Public class, let's say class 1, which implements IDB functions, IDB functions. Which class is this class inheriting from? Which class is this class inheriting from?
Object.
Object class. So you're inheriting from the object class, but you're also implementing the IDB functions interface. You can inherit from one class and implement multiple interfaces, right? Okay, it currently shows me an error because similar to what you did with the abstract class, you have not written down the code for this. So it's giving an error. The class 1 does not implement insert, update, and delete. Again, similar to the abstract class, you can come here and you have two options shown here. One is implement the interface, or secondly, implement all members explicitly. So two options that are shown here. We'll be doing both. Let's start with the first option, implement an interface. So you get the methods in the interface, right? And then I'm going to write a, console.writeLine in there to just show you the values. Okay. Okay, I just wanted to try and copy paste the code, but it's probably, I don't know why it's getting very slow. It's easier probably for me to just simply type it out. I was trying to save on time by copy pasting, but it's really slowed down the whole list. Give me a minute while I close windows that I don't need.
So one question.
Yes.
Sir, I don't know if it's a dumb question, but if a class.
No, firstly, 1 second. No question is a dumb question. All right, now go ahead.
Sure, sir. Sir, for example, class A is inheriting class B, but class A is also inheriting object class.
Not possible. Not possible because A is inheriting from B and B is inheriting from object. So that's how A gets the methods. You can't inherit from more than one class.
Okay, sir.
So there is multi-level inheritance at work out here, not multiple. Understood? Have you understood what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So I've finally managed to copy paste this. It's running a little quicker now. So I have written down the code for these insert, update, and delete. And I've also created an additional method display, which is not part of the interface, but which is a member of the class. All right. So I have these 4 methods written down here. Let's try calling this. Class 1 O is equal to new class 1. And if I did O dot, what are the things that I'm getting here? Firstly, I'm getting insert, update, and delete. These are the interface methods. I'm getting display, which is that additional method which is not part of the interface. And then, of course, I'm getting the methods from the object class. Let's try calling delete. And let's try calling a display. Right? Calling this is method 1. So one way of calling a method from an interface is directly with a reference of type class 1. Class 1 O is equal to new class 1. So with this reference directly you can call o.delete, o.display. Since these are public methods here, they are directly available through an class 1 O reference. Insert, update, delete, and display also. Display of course was not part of the interface. Let's try running this and you should get your delete and your display being called. Right? idb.delete and display from class 1 both being called. Are we clear on this? All right. Any questions about this so far before we try out other things? Yeah, no questions?
Sure.
Now let's see method 2. Another way of calling this. Now this is a little roundabout way. This is not a direct way. But see what I'm doing out here. I'm saying IDB functions OIDB. Right? I'm making OIDB point to O. OIDB point to O. So what's going to happen now here? What is O pointing to? O pointing to? What is O pointing to? Object of type class 1.
Class 1.
So when I say OIDB equal to O, OIDB also points to what O is pointing to. In other
New class.
words, to this class 1. And now I can call the methods in this manner. OIDB dot. And let's see what all methods are available here. So you have an insert, update, delete. Right? So you could call delete. But you don't have the display. You don't have the display. Why don't you have the display? Why is display not available? Yes.
The display
That's
is
the
not,
yeah, go ahead.
we're not
So display is
defining
not
interface.
correct. Because display is not a method in the interface. Does the object have a display method? Yes. But can you call it through the interface? No. You can call it through class 1 O. Through this you can call it. But you can't call it through the interface that you have out here. It has the method, but you can't call it. It's not accessible through the interface. Are we clear on this, everybody? So O.delete works, but OIDB.delete works, but OIDB.display will not be available. All right. Between method 1 and method 2, which would you prefer and why? Between, you can call it with method 1, you can call it with method 2. What would you prefer? Delete I'm talking about, let's say. What would you prefer doing? Everybody seems to have had a heavy lunch and come in.
Method 2.
Method 2, why?
Method 1, sir.
Okay,
Method
why?
1.
Why?
Compile time.
Okay, and what else?
The real problem with the abstraction, or like hiding the method from interfaces.
Method 1, are you saying method 1 or method 2?
Method 1, sir.
So why method one? Because method one is so much simpler to do it. No? You don't have to worry about creating a second reference, making it point to the object, then calling it through that. Directly O dot is giving you that method,
Yes.
right? So method one seems the simpler, easier, shorter, quicker, faster, right? Simpler way of doing things.
Method 2, sir.
And why
Yes.
method two?
So because it's giving the capability of abstraction. So we are hiding how we are implementing it.
But I just want to call delete. I don't want to, to get bored with big fundas. I just want to call the delete method. I
Sir,
want to call the
according to our
delete. I
So
want to call the delete method and end the session, go for lunch, just sleep. I mean, whatever. I mean, I've been doing sessions in the morning. I just want to call delete. Don't give me heavy fundas. I just want to call delete, which is the easier way of doing it.
the first one is easier.
Yeah,
First
so that's
method.
what we're doing. So majority of the times you'll be using method one only. To call it, reduce method one. That's the easier way, simpler way, faster way, quicker way to call this. So then why is there a method two? The method two would be there in situations where you cannot call it with method one. So there will be certain situations that we'll see as we go along where you cannot, not available only. Method one is not available only. So the only option available to you is what is a method two. This is a longer approach. This is make the interface reference point to the object and then call it via the interface rather than calling it directly. Okay. So majority of the cases, method one. The simple answer is always the right answer. Okay. But let me show you method three as well. So method three is a variation of method two. And what I'm doing here is I'm saying O, I'm typecasting this to IDB functions. And then the whole thing dot, again, what is available here is insert, update, delete only. I don't get display. So I could go ahead and call delete in this manner. Now, what is the difference between method 2 and method 3? Is that in method 2, you're explicitly creating a reference. In method 3, there is an implicit reference being created. So when you typecast this to IDB functions, there's an implicit reference being created, which you're not explicitly getting. In method 2, you're explicitly creating the reference, which makes it point to O and then pick it. So otherwise, method 2 and 3 are similar. That brings me to method 4. And method 4 is just a variation of method 3. So what you're doing with method 3, same thing you're doing with method 4. So see what I'm doing? I'm saying O as IDB functions. So here also you're doing a typecast, but using the as operator. I'm typecasting O to what? To IDB functions.
IDB function.
And then dot delete.
Delete.
So 3 and 4 are identical. Just the 4 is using the as keyword where you can cast it to some other type instead of doing a typecast in this way. All right. So this is what we're doing out here. So all 4 of these methods are doing the same thing, calling delete. Method 1 seemed to be the easier one. Method 2, 3, and 4, I said, would probably be used in situations where you would not be using method 1. Clear on this, everybody? Questions, if any, before I take it further? All right. So let's go on to another example.
So the
Yes.
typecasting that you have done to this reference O in IDB functions, then this
Line number
statement,
18.
yeah, 18. This line number 14 is not required after that, right?
No, I'm just showing you different ways. You
Okay.
either do this or you do this.
Both
There
have the
are
same meaning.
alternate ways.
Okay.
Alternate ways of doing it. I'm not saying that you will do both.
Okay.
I'm just showing you 4 different ways of doing similar things. And I ended by saying that you will probably use method 1 most of the times.
Yeah. Okay, sir.
Right?
Means these are just alternate ways of doing it, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
alternate way. It's not doing anything different. This is just a shorter way of doing method 2. 3 is just a shorter way of doing 2, and 4 is an alternate way of doing 3.
okay, sir.
All right. So this was what we did in the first example. Okay. Now I'm going to take up another example with a slightly different approach out here. So let me delete all these things. I don't need this right now. And we've said in this that you can implement more than one interface. Your class can implement more than one interface. So I'm going to create a second interface here called file functions. And these are things that you do with a file. So you might want to, for example, open a file. You might want to close a file. Or you might want to, for example, delete a file or delete something from a file. And I have public class one, which implements IDB functions. And here I'm going to try to also implement ifile functions. Right? When I do ifile functions, error shown here is what? What's the problem now? What's the issue?
Ambiguity.
Unimplemented method.
Not ambiguity. I'm not
We are not
implementing.
implemented, sir.
Unimplemented method.
So I have to implement it first. So ambiguity we'll see later, but first we have to implement that. So let's try to implement it. So it's saying it does not implement all these methods. So let's implement it, and let's try to implement it the first way, implement interface. And it adds the 3 methods for you. Insert, open, close, and delete. It adds all the 3 methods, correct? All 3 methods are added. Open, close, and delete. Yes or no?
Yes. No, delete is not there, sir. Open, close are only.
Right. So you'll find that delete has not been added. Why has delete not been added? Why has delete not been added?
So
It's
delete is
already
already
there.
implemented there.
Delete is
Correct.
already there.
Because you already have a delete with the same signature. What if this had a different signature? Then it could have brought the delete. But there's already a method called delete having the same signature in the class, which means that you can't have 2 methods having the same name and same signature in the same class. That's not possible. So let's go ahead and write down code for this and see what happens now. So just like I did this, I'm going to be putting in methods out here. So instead of idb.insert, this would be ifile.open from class 1. Similarly, ifile.close from class 1. So I could do it this way. And if I try calling code now, I can call code on all of them. O.open, O.close, and O.delete. So this should call me the 3 methods from open, close, and delete from my ifile, whatever the code I have in ifile. Correct? Let's try calling this code. And when you try calling this code, you get your ifile.open, ifile.close, but obviously now what is it calling? What is it calling here?
idb.delete.
idb.delete. So we don't have an ifile.delete, do we? Whatever
No,
code
sir.
we had was idb.delete. We didn't have ifile.delete. Okay. All right. Now what currently this implies, right? Currently what this implies is that the way in which you write code for delete for a database. So this code is a code that you've written delete for a database is going to be the same code for delete something from a file. This is what it is currently implying. that the code that you write for working with the database delete is the same code that you write with the working with the file delete. Because there's only one copy of code. So is this a correct situation or an incorrect situation?
The incorrect situation.
Incorrect situation. We don't want that. We want two copies, right?
Yes.
We want different code for your database and we want different code for your file. But right now it's allowing me to write only what? Only one copy of code. So how do I handle this situation? How do I handle this situation? To handle this situation, let's try something different. So I'll comment out this code again. Now it's again going to give me an error. And let me try implementing it the second way, which says implement all members explicitly. Instead of implement interface, implement all members explicitly. So when you do that, you'll notice now it generates an open, close, and a separate delete. This delete is separate from both of this. All right. So you have different code out here. But the syntax generated is also different. So can you point out what is the difference in the syntax?
It is using the interface name as well.
Correct. So you're now going to write code as interface name dot method name.
Dot method name.
Instead of directly writing the method name. That's one change. Any other change? Any other change that you notice? One more important change. What is the other change that you'll notice? Come on. Look at the function top. Look
It
at the
is throwing
function
an
below.
exception object.
Then that throwing an exception we have to put in the console.write. But what is the
We have two deletes with the same signature.
no, there's something else. You are not
Access
seeing it. It's
specifier.
right in front of your eyes. You're not seeing it.
The access specifier.
Correct. It is no longer a public method. The other methods are public, but this is no longer a public method. Okay. So let's try calling, if I have to call open close out here, let's try calling this. Now when I try doing this now, O dot, see it's giving me an error already. If I did O dot, you'll find that now open and close is not available to you. There's no open and close. And the delete that you see, this delete is actually from that idb functions.delete. The ifile functions.delete is not there and none of the ifile functions are there. So my first question to you is why are they not there? When you did O dot, why are they not there?
Private.
They have been
Because they are not public anymore. They're not public anymore. So let's try making them public. And if I try making them public, give me an error saying that sorry, the modifier public is not valid for this item. So if you're using, this is called as explicit implementation. What is this called as? Explicit implementation of an interface. When you're using explicit implementation, you cannot make it public. If I could have made it public, then I should have been able to call it in some way. But it's not public anymore. So which is why method one is not available to you. Are you getting this, everybody? Because method one can only call it if it is a public method. It's not a public method. We are lucky. We have method 2, 3, 4. How do I call now this for ifile.delete, ifile.open, ifile.close? How do I call that? Help me. Give me the code. Method 2, let's say. One call out code for me. Yes, please.
For method 2, sir?
For method 2.
Typecasting it to the
No, method 2. Method 2. That is what you're doing is method 3. I want method 2. So
interface name.
Now I'm asking to call out code. I ask you, what is your name? Are you going to tell me the name that is mine is the name that is given to me by my parents? You're going to give me your name. I'm asking for the code. So speak code. Now don't speak English. Code. Yes.
I file functions. Oh, I file.
I file functions. OI file. Carry on.
Equals to O.
I'm doing it on the next line.
OI
OI
file
file is
equals to
O. Then what? Then what? Now how do I call open, close, delete?
OI file dot
File dot delete.
Open.
But whatever method that you want to call. So delete, open and close. Right? So this code would work now. So you didn't have method 1 available, but method 2 was available. And of course, I still need to go and write down the code for this. Let me quickly do that. Okay. Let's try calling the code now. So one we are calling was idb.delete, and the other one that we are calling was ifile.delete. So both are now available to you. Are we clear on this? So in this scenario, you're forced to use what? The second method. Could we have also done this with the third or fourth method? Yeah. Similarly. Possible, yes. Well, I had a very heavy lunch today.
Yes, sir.
Today,
It's
I
possible.
don't know what you'll have had in lunch. Very, very sluggish and slow.
So, I didn't understood why we cannot call the first method. Can you just repeat it, please? Yeah, this is now private. That is understood.
So that's then you understood. It's
Okay.
no longer public.
Okay.
Okay. You gave me the answer before I could even. You gave me a chance to explain also.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, you just want to show off a little bit. If you ask the question, answer it yourself.
No, sir.
Okay, tell me why. And then before I can even open the mouth, he gives me the answer. Okay. So anyway, so that's what we're doing out here. Achha, now you could call it with method 2, 3, 4 out here. But tell me one thing. Was there a problem with open and close? Was there
No,
a problem
sir.
with open and close? No. So what if I tried doing this? Open and close, I don't want to do it this way. I'll keep open and close the way it was earlier. Open and close, I'll keep them as public methods. And the only thing that is available now, in this way is delete, because why? There's ambiguity on delete. So delete, I don't want to make it available directly. I'll make it available through this explicit implementation. And open and close, I'll have directly. So now what can I do now? Open and close, how could I call? Open and close, how could I call directly?
O dot open
O dot.
and O dot close.
So, yeah, so O dot close is also available because now they're public methods. So you could do that. Right? And then I don't need to do all of this. Sorry, not this
So for
one.
delete, yeah.
Sorry. But now when I call O dot delete, which delete is this? Which delete is this?
IDB function.
IDB function.
IDB dot delete. Now when you're typing it out, do you know which one you are calling? There are two methods. There's a delete from IDB, there's a delete from ifile. Do we know which one we are calling by looking at the code?
No.
So I want to avoid this situation because where the user is guessing, what is he trying to call? So I don't want this to work. So what I'm going to also do is I'm going to come back to this delete and I'll change it to an explicit implementation. So the ones that are causing ambiguity, the ones that are causing problem, I'll make those explicit. The ones that are not causing any problem, I'll make them the default implementation, the public implementation. So how do I change this now? What would I need to do? First thing is public goes away. Second thing is what? This now becomes what? IDB functions dot delete. Are we clear on this? So if I now come back here, you will find that you can't do an O dot delete. This doesn't work, right? It'll give you an error. So how do I now call that? How do I call delete from IDB? Give me
IDB
method. Give me
functions.
four. Give me four. Give me method four. Give me method four.
IDB functions.
I'm asking for method
OS
four.
O as
as
IDB
IDB
functions
OS
dot delete.
IDB
IDB
function dot delete.
dot delete. Right? And I could do this to call it. Right? So this is what you could do. So now you can call both the deletes. You can call the delete from IDB also, and you can call the delete from OI file also. Right? So this is the one. What code am I calling? Yeah. So open, close, idb.delete and ifile.delete. So last two are ifile.delete and idb. Are we clear on this, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Questions, if any, with any of what we have tried out here? So do you know when to use, the public implementation, the public, default implementation, and when to use the explicit implementation, right? Explicit implementation, when would you need? When would you need this sort of syntax?
When there is a
When,
chances of ambiguity.
correct. When there is ambiguity, when you are implementing more than one interface, and if two interfaces have a similar method name and parameters, so that's when you would use explicit. Otherwise, you can continue using the public implementation, default public implementation. All right, clear on this?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, I'm going to show you one more, example with interfaces. And you've done this before. It's not that you haven't done this before, but I'm just discussing this. So look at the situation that I have here. I have an interface called IDB function, same one that I've been using all along. Class 1 implements IDB functions, right? Same, the first class that we had written. So that's insert, update, delete, and display. Class 1 implements IDB functions. Class 2 also implements IDB functions. So now we have a situation wherein you have multiple classes implementing the same interface. Now, when this sort of situation arises, look at the type of polymorphic code I can write. So see this code, please. Line numbers 144 and 145. What am I creating here? Yeah, what are we creating here?
Objects of
Object
class
of
1 and class 2.
one and
Objects.
class two.
Object of type class 2. Create a reference of the interface type. Make it first point to obj1. And then call insert. So what is this going to call now? I'm going to call insert for obj1. obj1 is of type class 1. So we'll call that method. Second time, what am I doing? Making the same interface object point to obj2
obj2.
and call obj.insert. OIDB.insert. So what will this one call now? Which method will it call?
Insert method of obj2 class 2.
Okay, of class 2, right? Look at this line of code and look at this line of code. Look at line number 150 and 153. Is it any different? Or is there any difference in line 150, 153? Right? Same code? Agree?
Yes,
Same
sir.
code.
Same code.
But doing two different things.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is
Reference
an
is
example
changing.
of, yeah, this is an example of polymorphic code using interfaces. Polymorphic code is basically code that looks the same but behaves differently based on what, the different circumstances that it's in. Is it also late bound code? Is it also late bound code?
Yes, sir.
No.
Isn't it similar to what we did earlier? The base class object points to a derived class object. So if you can think of the interface as the base class, think of it. I told you that interface is like an abstract base class with all abstract methods. Think of it that way. And it's pointing to a one object or pointing to the other object. Depending upon which object is pointing to, it'll go and call the correct code. So you get more flexible code with the interface. Are we clear on this? This is what you're getting. You're getting, code that looks the same. Also, more flexible options in your code. Now, the same example, I'm going to do it in a slightly different way. So look at the second example. So I have a method here called insert method, which takes IDB functions as a parameter. And all that I'm doing is I'm calling oidb.insert. So which method is going to call now? We don't know which method. So what can IDB functions now receive? It can receive an object of any class that is implementing IDB functions. Right? It can receive an object of any class that implements IDB functions. And that's what I'm doing in the main. So I'm creating two objects. Initially, I'm passing what? To this insert method, I'm passing O1, which is of type class 1. And here at this point, it is like saying what? If I pass O1, it is like saying what? OIDB is equal to O1.
O1.
It's like saying that. Agree or no?
Yes, sir.
Or if I pass O2 to this, then it's like saying OIDB equal to O2 in this
O2.
case. And then whatever OIDB is pointing to, that's the insert that it's going to get called. So you can write, common code like this for different objects, provided they all are all implementing the same interface. So that's what you could do out here. Okay, so that's another example of how you can write a little common code or generic code out here. All right. So we'll be looking a lot more with interface related examples, but these are things that I would like you to, try and understand. What are the advantages of interfaces? Why are interfaces important? So by no means are they a substitute for inheritance, but they have their own place. They have their own reason for why you would want to have them. So first thing is it's a contract. Contract between what and what? Contract between the class and the interface. So the class is now forced to write down the code for all the interface methods. The class must implement all the interface methods. Now, if I was a project manager, for example, and you all were all working on my project, I would create an interface and tell you to implement it. Now, what am I sure about? If I'm giving you an interface to implement it, what am I sure about? I'm the project manager. You're the team working under me.
We will make sure to use the every method inside it.
So it's a contract. Now you're forced to write down the code for all the methods. So I'm sure now that your classes have all these methods definitely. So this is what happens in large projects. You'll be asked to implement certain interfaces. And once you implement the interface, that means they're sure that you are implementing the code for that. That means that functionality is there in your class. So large projects would have a lot of interfaces that they'll be using. Not just that. Now, assuming all 250 of you all are working the same project, I've given you the same interface to implement. It will mean that all of your code will look the same. All of you all will have similar methods since you are all implementing the same interface. So you'll have similar code in the entire project for all developers. So calling code will become a little simpler because everybody is using the same type of method. Then it allows you to write polymorphic code. We saw an example on top of how it could write polymorphic code. Code that looks the same but behaves differently. And finally, interfaces are used a lot in design patterns. So you probably may have been introduced to a few design patterns in your, in your Java examples, or as we go along in .NET also we'll be looking at few design patterns. But what are design patterns typically? You'll find that in software, when you keep doing tasks, when you're doing your jobs, you'll find that certain things are being repeated in different situations. And that becomes a pattern. And then you can write code for a pattern using a certain common way of writing it. So there are a lot of design patterns that you'd be working with. And, I don't know whether you'll have been as part of your software engineering module, whether you have been taught design patterns or not, but it probably will be too early to teach you about design patterns. Maybe as you get a little more experience with code, 1 year experience, 2 years experience, 3 years experience, as you get a little more experience, then you'll be able to understand design pattern based programming a little better. But interfaces play a great role in trying to implement design patterns. Okay. All right. So these are some of the advantages of interfaces. There's one more thing that I'd like you all to do with interfaces. Okay. There's one more small thing that I would like you all to look at, is to try inheritance in interfaces. So I'm not trying that with you, but I'm telling you what to do. So create an interface. Let's say, for example, I1 interface has two methods. Let's say M1 and M2. Okay, method 1 and method 2. Then create a second interface that inherits from I1. So let's say I2 inherits from I1. I2 now has M3 and M4. So how many methods does I3 now have? Sorry, not I3. I2 have
M1, M2, M3, M4.
M1, M2, M3, M4. Two of them coming in from its base interface, two more that it's adding. And then have a class that implements I2. So when you have a class that implements I2, you'll have to write down code for all four of the methods. So try this out. Inheritance in interfaces. Right? Very simple example. You can do a simple hello world type example. But at least know about how to use inheritance out here. Are we clear on this?
Yes.
All right. So I'm not done with interfaces. There are more examples that I want to cover with interfaces, but I want you to finish trying out this, especially these method 2, 3, 4 that we have seen out here. I would like you to try those out. Method 1, you are of course very familiar with. You must have tried method 2, 3, 4 also, but just try these out so that the next section that I'm taking depends on whether you know these concepts well or not. And then we can see the next section with interfaces. I'm not done with the interface example. There's a lot more that I want to do. But I'm stopping the session here for the day. Okay. I'm not done with the day. I'm talking about the training part of it. I'm done with this thing. Right. And what I would would firstly be doing is sharing an assignment with you. So let me show you the assignment that I wanted to do. And I will be uploading it, of course, but I'd like you all to read through this, and I want to discuss this assignment here. So this is based on what we have done so far today, mainly today's session. Okay. So please read through this, and I am going to discuss this in a minute or two. All right, are you all done with reading through the assignment?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is the same class that you worked with, in yesterday's assignment. Again, please don't make changes in yesterday's assignment. You can copy that class and then, open a new project and make whatever changes that you want. So what are the first change that you notice out there? Besides, of course, the other classes that we have added for inheritance, but first change that you notice in the employee class?
Abstract decimal basic.
Abstract decimal basic.
Correct. So what is this now? This is an abstract property. Okay. Now I have not shown you how to create an abstract property. I only showed you an abstract method. But if you remember, a property is nothing else but a combination of two methods, a get and a set. So you can create an abstract property also. Okay. So try creating an abstract property. If you can't figure out the syntax for creating an abstract property, you can always refer to help. Help as in any book you want to refer to, if you want to Google it and see how to create it. Within 2 minutes, you'll get the answer to this. But you have to try creating an abstract property. Also, there's something else that's abstract in here. What is that?
Method.
The
Calculate net salary.
Calculate
net
salary.
salary, which you wrote down the other day. Now I'm asking you to make it abstract. Now, I'm not saying this here. Nowhere have I said this here. But if a class has at least one abstract member in it, then the class also, complete my words,
Will be abstract.
Will be abstract.
Abstract
will be an
method.
abstract class. Will be an abstract class.
Class.
Okay. If a class has at least one abstract method in it, then the class also compulsorily must be a abstract class. So I have not told you that, but that is implied. That is understood. Okay. All right. Then the inheritance part is simple. I don't need to explain that. So manager inherits from employee and then adds this property, and then general manager inherits from manager and adds this property. CEO inherits from employee and adds this property. And no, there's no property, and then just make this a sealed method and so on and so on. Now, look at the section below. Look at that note below, and one by one, let's try and understand what needs to be done out there. So first thing, overloaded constructors in all classes calling their base class constructor. So we talked earlier in the day of how your derived class will pass values to your base class constructor. Correct? So this is what I'm talking about here. Okay. I'll give you an example. How many properties are there in employee? In employee, how many properties are there?
4.
4.
But how many would we need in the constructor? How many would we need in the constructor?
3.
3.
3. Why 3? The employee
1
number
is
is
auto generated.
auto-generated. Yes, sorry, somebody was saying something. Yeah, so employee number is read-only and auto-generated. Therefore, only 3 properties we need. Think and answer. How many properties are there in manager? Think and answer. Think but
5.
also answer.
5, sir.
5.
5. What are the 5? 4 from employees and 1
And
extra
one
in manager.
designation.
One extra.
Right? 5. But how many properties will be there in your constructor for manager?
1.
Only 1.
4. 4.
4.
4.
Oh, sorry, 4.
4. So the manager will accept 4 properties, but out of the 4, 3 are coming in from the employee.
Yeah.
So it will pass 3 to the employee.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the extra property that you have, that will be initialized in the manager constructor. So that's what I mean by overloaded constructors in all classes calling their base class constructor. Similarly, now if you take it further, general manager has how many properties?
6.
6, right? 5 from manager plus 1 extra. And how many, properties would you need to accept in the constructor for general manager?
5.
5. So you'll accept 5 and pass 4 to
4 to
manager.
manager.
Manager will receive 4 and pass 3 to employee. So that is what I mean by overloaded constructors in all classes calling their base class constructor. Right? Okay. Secondly, all classes must implement IDB functions interface. Same interface that we just created right now. Use that same interface and you have to implement it in all the classes. So all classes should have different code and for IDB functions. Now there is not just one way or right way of doing things. There might be multiple ways. Figure out whichever way you need to do it and get it working. Then the next one, all classes to override the abstract members defined in the employee class. So what are the abstract members? One is the abstract property. Second is the abstract method. So to override all these things in all the classes. The basic property to have different validations in different classes. That means the code in manager for basic will be different from the code in general manager, which will be different from the code in CU. Similarly, the calculate net salary also will be different in all of them. Different code in all of them. That is what we are looking at. Okay. So this is what is required of you. Any queries, any questions about things that you have not understood? Or after my session ends, then when you get in the lab, you turn to your friend and ask, "अरे क्या कर रहे थे?" और क्या करना है? क्या करना था इसमें? That what we're going to do? Or do we have a question? Do we have any doubt?
No doubt, sir.
No doubts, no? Hopefully everything is clear. Okay. Obviously, if you're going to do this, then you need to have your earlier one working. So complete the earlier one. Some of you had not finished the second one. You all said that we could finish the first, but not the second and whatnot. So make sure you finish this first and then you try this. Because if you see this is the same class, I'm taking it ahead and I'm adding on more features out there. So it's not that it's a different class or whatever. So you got to get the earlier one. Okay. All right. Any other queries or questions? Okay. So I have about 10 minutes. I don't want to take anything different. I told you that I've stopped at a logical point and I don't want to take up the next session unless you finish the previous part. So anyone who's finished both the assignments?
Sir, hello.
Yes.
Actually, I am having problem with the Visual Studio, sir. So
Okay.
like
Now
okay, sir.
I won't be able to help you with that. You'll have to ask someone from the lab to help you because it might take more than 5-10 minutes to do that. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay,
Whatever
sir.
the issues is, I won't be dealing with that right now. If I was in the lab, then I would have loved to help you out. But
Okay, sir.
don't want to waste my time in class doing that. Please ask someone in the lab to help you.
Okay, sir.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So what I want to do here is I'll stop sharing my screen. Some of you all said that you all had finished the assignment, right? A handful of you all said yes. So any of you all, those who have said yes, would like to volunteer and show what you have done. I'd just like to go through this and I can see the code that I've written and make comments on whether it's correct, not correct, whether I can suggest any ways of improving that code. So would anyone like to go show their assignment? Don't be scared. I won't do anything. I'm just looking at the code and telling you if
Sir,
there is
can
a more
I?
than. Firstly, question should be may I, and the answer is
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, sir.
So open your project and show us what you've done. So second one you're showing me, first one you're showing me. Which one you're showing me?
I completed both.
So show me the second one. Because second has first plus second, right? Okay.
Yes, sir. This is the second one.
Okay. So 1 second. Can you come down to the program class and don't scroll very fast. I need to read your code.
Yes, sir.
Come
Yes.
down. I don't want to see the main class. I don't want to see the main program. I want to see the employee class.
Yes, sir.
Okay. 1 second. Yeah, minimize this. Minimize print. I don't want to see print. Minimize print.
Okay. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, Ashish, I don't think you
Yes, sir.
have tested your code. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think you have tested your code with the test cases that I gave you.
Sir, I test your test cases. Simply, I run this code.
But from what I've seen so far, I don't think it's working code.
Yes, sir.
Is it working code or not
Sir,
working code?
sir, it is working, sir.
It is not working. Stop it. I'll tell you why it's not working. Stop running it. Stop running it. Show me your main now.
Yeah.
Show me your main.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Now can you do a o1 dot print after o5 dot print? O1 dot print, object one dot print.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
And you can comment out 2, 3, 4 print. Or take a keep it, chalo. We'll just see the last two outputs. So O1
Yes,
dot
sir.
print is the first employee Amol.
Yes, sir.
Okay. His employee number should be
1.
1. Okay. So when I print it at the end, let's see.
Okay, it's showing 6.
So without looking at your code, I knew you had not tried it out. Now open my problem statement and show me the test cases that I have shown. You have written it down somewhere. The test cases are given there somewhere in the comment. In the comment only it was there.
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, sir.
So now look at the
Yeah.
test cases. Look at line 31, 32, 33. You're done 31, 32, 33, but you're not done 35, 36, 37. You've not done that. So which is why
Okay.
the problem is, I'll tell you what the issue is. I
Yes.
am 100% sure that you would have got the solution if you knew what the problem was. And you would have got
Okay.
what the problem was if you had done the test cases that I had given you. Now, because you're not tested it the correct way, you are not found out the
Yes.
problem. And because you're not found out the problem, you're not come up with the solution. Okay. Anyway, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just going to look at your code. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm
Yes,
sure
sir.
you'll figure out a way.
Sir, actually, sir, I am not saying this problem statement. Last three problem statements.
So
I
that's
work on these only three test cases.
right. So
Yes.
I
Yes.
knew what problems could come up. This is why I told you to try this test case. Anyway, come down to
Yeah.
your code.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Let's see what you've done so far. Come down to
Yes.
your code. All right. Now hold on. Now go slow. Now,
Yeah.
can you come down to your name? This thing. What are you saying on line 110? You're saying name should not be blank. Huh? Line 110,
Yeah.
110.
Okay.
You're saying name should not be blank,
Yes, sir.
right? Now go back to your constructor and look at line 92.
Yes.
What is the value that you're giving? Yourself giving. You yourself are giving what value? Default value, what are you giving?
Blank.
Blank. So that means you're putting in wrong data yourself. Understood what I'm saying? Supposing the user doesn't pass anything, what value are you setting? You're making it a blank string. So it means what will happen? It will not be validated correctly.
It will show on a console window that is invalid name.
Yes, but you understand. See, try and understand. Your written validation which says it should not be blank. But the
Yes.
default value you're giving is blank. So you yourself are giving a wrong value in your own code. You're not even waiting for the user to give a wrong value. You yourself are giving a wrong value. Understood what's happening?
Okay.
Or no? Have you understood what I'm trying to tell you?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So how will you solve the problem? The initial value here should be something which is not going wrong. So whatever, no name, for example, or blank name or null or whatever, given some default name which is not a blank name.
Okay.
Type out Ashish.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Type out Ashish. Type right now. Type out Ashish there. So which means what? If no names are given, then the default name assigned is Ashish instead of a blank string. Okay. Then the next thing with basic also same problem. Basic also same problem. In below, you're writing that basic should be between some range, but you're giving the default value as 0.
Sir, I thought that whenever we create an object and not passing any values, okay, by default it will take 0, and in print statement I will make if else statement that if basic salary taken as 0, then it shows as a invalid basic salary.
No. This is not correct. Not correct. You're going into a very wrong way of thinking. So which is even more dangerous than bad syntax. Because the problem is this is not a syntax error. This is the way in which you're thinking that I have a problem with. So don't do that. Don't do that. So put in the code in the property, in the else part that you had, you put in the code out there. And secondly, valid values out here.
Okay.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
come down. Now, don't change it now. You can do it later. Come
Yeah.
down. So this
Yes, yes.
otherwise the code in the constructor is okay, but your auto generation part is not working. Come down. Auto generation part is not working because you've not done things correctly. I'm not telling you what the correct answer is. Okay.
Yeah,
Come
yes,
down.
sir. Yes.
Come down. So everywhere here there should be an else. Okay. Here, everywhere here there should be an else, and not in your print. Don't keep check of it. Keep a check here. Okay. Come down.
Yeah.
Come down. Come down. Come down. Come down. Come down. This is okay. Otherwise it's okay. All
Yeah.
right. So minor changes that I suggested. Otherwise quite good. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So anyway, I'm out of time right now. I need to leave for my next batch, and please complete all the examples, and we will meet again tomorrow. Right. Bye for now. Happy coding. Enjoy your assignment. Have fun with coding, and I'll see you tomorrow.